Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News. It is May 20th, 2018. Welcome aboard this early Sunday morning. Ladies and gentlemen, the recent video that I uploaded 2 days ago showing a very large object in the 1 o'clock position near the sun, I've gotten a lot of emails. Excuse me. I got a lot of emails, a lot of comments pertaining to this particular video and the photographs, my observations. And, I don't know if these comments are coming from, trolls using fake accounts. Who knows? But I can clearly see that in the comment section of the video, these individuals were, well, basically complaining that this photograph, this capture, is nothing more than a coronal loop. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been studying the sun for a very long time. I'm not going to make that type of mistake. I know what a coronal loop looks like. I see them just about every day on the sun whenever I'm viewing it on the SDO and a couple of other websites. And I'm going to show you a website that I go to that gives a lot of information on activity on the sun. And that particular day, on May 18th, 2018, there was no activity at the 1 o'clock position on our sun. There were no coronal loops, no flares, no sigmoids, no eruptions, no plasma ejections, nothing. Nothing was reported on that particular position of the sun at the 1 o'clock position. And I'm going to show you this information so we can put this to rest. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick so you guys all know what I'm talking about. Okay, this is the photographic capture that I picked up off of the SDO, and you can see the timestamp down here in the corner. I've put that in there because it was kind of blocked and chopped off. And this is from May 18th, 2018 at 5:23:59 UTC time, Universal Time. Give me 1 second, folks. I'm going to go ahead and open up this this chat real quick. And when you look in the upper right-hand corner there, pretty close to the 1 o'clock position, you'll see a very large circular shape. And I took some, just some measurements on one of my programs, and that shape I'm referring to right here. This shape right here is perfectly circular. And if you do any type of investigations or research or just some general reading about coronal loops, magnetic loops on the sun, you will find out very quickly that these shapes are not perfectly circular. And you will also learn how they're formed, and you'll start to understand the dynamics of a coronal loop. Now, if you are going to, put down the video information that I put up, you're going to come up with something that's quick and easy. And that's what someone would say. Oh, that's a coronal prominence. Oh, that's a coronal loop. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I've been going through this coronal prominence and coronal loop comment display from these individuals that seem to know everything. I've been going through this now for a year. And that's the same comment that they use over and over and over again. Whether these are bot comments or these are real people making these comments, I don't know, nor do I care. So I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit of information so we can just put this to rest. And I've gone over this information with Dr. Albers now for 2 days. We've been examining the footage and the photographs, and we've been looking at a lot of other information pertaining to coronal loops. And, well, the fact of the matter is this object is there. It's slightly off behind the sun. I would say almost 90% of this object is completely visible. You can clearly see it. It's perfectly round. You do not see any type of coronal loops. Now these little shaded areas here that are a little bit lighter in shade, these are not coronal loops. These are not coronal loops in any sense of the way. No way. And number one, there's no sunspot here. There is absolutely no active region here at all. And something else that Dr. Albers pointed out, because she's a very, very smart lady. You see right here what looks to be a plasma connection or some type of connection with this object. Once again, folks, I'm going to show you and I'm going to prove to you that this, what looks like a plasma burst of some kind, this was not even reported. And I'm going to show you the website where you can go daily or hourly, and you can get a lot of information on what is going on the sun. You can get it in high definition. You can download the information, and you can start monitoring what is happening on our star. So if this object here was a coronal loop, it would have been reported on May 18th. If this was some type of plasma ejection, it would have been reported on May 18th. And it was not. I'll zoom in a little bit for you. And you know, I converted these photographs over to 4K to get, you know, as much resolution as I possibly could. But it's very hard whenever you, even in 4K, folks, you still have a lot of interference, a lot of disturbance within the corona. And remember, this object is not close to the camera. It is behind the sun, and the corona will obscure what we're seeing slightly. But it was enough where we were able to actually see this shadowy object directly behind the sun at the 1 o'clock position. The distance from the sun to that object, I couldn't tell you. That's just almost impossible to even say, oh, it's, you know, 100,000 miles or 1,000,000 miles away. You have no idea because of your perception of your view from the SDO. You just can't tell. But it would have to be close enough where the object's magnetic field starts to interact with the sun's magnetic field, therefore creating this type of magnetic connection. Now, this can also be classified as a solar tornado or solar storm. There are so many different names that these solar scientists come up with. But my point is, folks, this disturbance and the disturbance of a plasma loop were not detected, and they were not reported on May 18th. And the one website that I go to where I monitor all of this information 4 times a day, 4 times a day, I'm monitoring this information on the sun. This was never reported. So therefore, there is no coronal loops, no plasma ejections, no sunspots, no activity at the 1 o'clock position on the sun on that date, May 18th. So let's go ahead and collapse this. We'll bring up what I was referring to as far as this website goes. And I'll leave you guys the link to it, and you guys can start to use this website, and you can start learning some more about the sun, and you can start monitoring what's happening on the sun. Now, I have it set right here. You can click on today, and it will flip over to today's date. You can go over here, use the calendar, and we're talking about the 18th. So it's converted itself over to the 18th. Now, over here, you can get 4K high-resolution photographs, and you just highlight the links, and it will give you the different views of the sun as I highlight them. So I'm just going to give you guys a little teaching lesson here so you can start to use this website to your advantage. Here's a multi-layer view of the sun. Here's the 211, the 193, the 171. And what you do is whenever you have that area highlighted, move your cursor over and click on the 4K. It will bring you up the current view of the SDO, and you'll see my little cursor in the middle has the magnifying glass on it with the plus symbol. If you just click on the image like that, it will give you high resolution and high magnification. Now, this is the area that we were looking at. Now, I'm not on the same timestamp as my photograph because this website does not allow you to go to specific timestamps, only the observational photograph that they took at that time. So this photograph that we're looking at doesn't match my photograph because they were at different times. But you can actually zoom in and you can see some really, really high definition views of activity on the sun. And this area right here that you see on your screen, this is a very, very highly active area of the sun. You can actually see some coronal loops right here. This is probably a sunspot. I'd actually have to check and see if that was designated as a sunspot. Really not sure. But when you click back on the photograph, it shrinks back down. And you can just go ahead and exit out of that. But it gives you all of these views. It also gives you a whole bunch of information. And you'll learn how to use the site. When you pan down, whenever you pan down here, okay, you're going to see this little globe in the middle. Now, if you roll the little wheel on your cursor, it will get bigger or smaller. So you want to keep it kind of, within this black area right here. Over here to the left, you're going to see a list. And I always go over here, click on all, pan down, and hit search. And you could go over here and you could change the date. So I want to see what was happening on the 18th. So I'm going to click on the 18th. It's going to give me all of the information for the 18th. Now, since I clicked all, it's going to give me active regions, CMEs, coronal cavities, coronal dimming, coronal holes, Coronal jets, rain, wave, emerging flux, eruptions, filaments, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and here we go. Loops and flares. Loops and flares. Okay. Now, all of these little areas you see here, they're all referenced right here for these particular days from the 17th through the 18th. You can see the coronal holes. And here's the thing, folks. Whenever you click on one of these, you click on it and just wait a second, and you'll see information pop up right over here. You can click on this image and you'll get a bigger version of it right on your screen. You can click on it and it will magnify, and so on and so forth. Very, very good website to use. Like I said, I use it every single day, 4 times a day. There are also movie clips for these regions that they recorded. There are a bunch of other links right here that you can follow and gain more information on that particular day. So any one of these symbols, emerging flux, active region, you can click on those and you can get the information. And these little symbols are placed at the area where the activity is. So let's pan back up here real quick. I'm on the 18th. Oops. Okay, you see this? I'm on the 18th right there. Let's take a look at the 1 o'clock position. This is about the 1 o'clock position right here. Can we all agree on that? Of course we can. We can all tell time. So, do you see any symbols there representing coronal loops, flaring, filament eruptions, coronal prominences, flares, sigmoids, sunspots? I mean, let's be realistic, folks. If the information was real as far as, okay, that was a coronal loop in the photograph, then it would be here. You see the amount of symbols on this day. CH stands for coronal hole, and you see to the right, whenever I highlight the coronal hole, it highlights it over here. You can click on any one of these links and it will bring up the information right here. If there is a little movie, as they call it, what NASA recorded at that particular instance, it will be right there. So as you can clearly see at the 1 o'clock, between the 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock position, right here, nothing, I repeat, nothing was recorded as far as any coronal loops, flares, filament eruptions, filament activations, emerging flux, coronal waves, sunspots, nothing. No blasts, no explosions, absolutely nothing occurred in this area. Nothing. So, folks, I hope you're seeing my point. So when people were leaving all of those comments, and the reason why they leave those comments is to disturb your thoughts and move you away from realizing that, holy hell, there is something there. And in reality, folks, there was something there. And that is not the first time that I have captured something like that near the sun at that position. Now, real quick, once again, more comments that were left. They were saying that, that planet, blah, 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 that was a planet oh, it would explode and, blah, blah, blah. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the last year, with the help of Dr. Albers, we have told all of you that, yes, this is not a planet. It's not a planet like Earth. It's not a planet like Jupiter or Saturn, or Neptune. It's not a planet. It's a dead star. It could possibly be a brown dwarf. We don't exactly know, ladies and gentlemen. We don't have the composition of this object, but we do know that it is able to withstand the distance that it is so close to the sun, and it's literally feeding off of the sun. We have caught many photographs of this object making a magnetic connection with the sun. And that is possibly what occurred on May 18th, once again. When we see these magnetic connections with this object and the sun, it seems that the sun just kind of goes wild a little bit. It's almost like, electricity, or like lightning making contact with the earth. A lot of power, a lot of energy, more energy than we can even fathom. So if you want to do a little bit more homework, and I hate to say, but I really don't trust Wikipedia anymore. It seems that they have really scrubbed Wikipedia over the course of the last year. But dealing with something like this, with the coronal loops, you can look this information up for yourself. I'll throw a link to that website and this topic for coronal loops in Wikipedia. Gives you a complete definition. And there are also some photographs over here of a coronal loop. So here is a coronal loop. I mean, does that look anything like what we saw? No, it does not. And usually when you see these magnetic loops, you will see these very light regions right here. Usually a sunspot or a highly active region on the sun. These coronal loops, they will eject outward. They will disconnect, reconnect, disconnect, reconnect. Sometimes they will stay there for days or weeks. It all depends on the activity of the area below. So I have a little side-by-side photograph. We'll go ahead and pull that up real quick. And I put the little 3D globe in here just to give you a perspective of the size of this object. And again, I mean, does that look like any type of coronal loop? I don't think so. But I have a little side-by-side photograph. And here's your side-by-side. So, take a few minutes, take a few seconds, whatever, and compare the two. Here's your object. Here's a coronal loop. You see the activity zone on the surface of the sun right here. All of the lit up area clearly defined. Do you see any type of lit up surface here? None. Zero. I've already showed you on the other website map, which lists the activity. No activity was listed for that day. Nothing. No coronal loops. No flaring. No plasma discharge. No filament discharge. Nothing. So just, take about 10, 15 seconds and, ponder on what you're looking at. So there's no misconception, folks. It's very easy to drop a comment and say, oh, that's a coronal prominence or a coronal cavity. Oh, just stop it, Scott. You lying bastard. That's nothing more than a plasma loop or a magnetic coronal loop. Stop lying to these people, you ignorant bastard. I mean, these are the comments that people leave, and they hope that all of you see these comments, and then you start questioning what I'm showing you. Those are their tactics. And I think just in a matter of a few minutes, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, I've proven to you that this was not a coronal loop. It was nothing like that. And if you take a look at the shapes of coronal loops, or even coronal cavities or coronal prominences, 99.9% of the time, they are nowhere near perfectly spherical and clearly identifiable as making the connection to the sun from one end to the other, meaning you can clearly see its connection from here to here. Let me zoom in here. Do you see any type of connection here to here? Absolutely not. Now, this may be a little solar tornado. I can't definitely say. It does look like it's attached to the surface of the sun right about here. But this object, yeah, that's not a coronal loop. This is a coronal loop. That's not a coronal loop. This is a coronal loop. To me, ladies and gentlemen, that is an open and shut case. And I can tell you this much. Each and every time that we make these discoveries and we show all of you what we're finding, the opposition and, the gang stalking, it all starts up hot and heavy. Just over the course of the last week, these idiots are trying to petrify Dr. Albers with their threats. They want her to stop reporting on this subject matter. But it's not going to happen. I believe that we truly have the right to know what is happening in our solar system. The government doesn't own the solar system. The governments of the world, listen, they don't own the earth. To me, my definition and my thoughts about the earth, it's a God-given structure for humanity, for the human species, animals, plant life, a place for all of us to live. Nobody owns it. I think we have the right to know if there's something out there that is interacting with our sun in a very bad way that could be harmful to all of us here on Earth. I mean, I go through every single day with the internal battle within my own mind, thinking to myself, wow, why can't they just come out and say, ladies and gentlemen, our world population, we've made some discoveries within our inner solar system. We're currently researching it, compiling the data, and this is what we have found. But they feel that if they do something like that, world populations would probably go haywire. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. Who's to say? There's no doubt in my mind that after measuring the distance from here to here, here to here, this object right there is perfectly spherical. And folks, you can take a still shot of what I'm showing you. And, if you have some of the programs that I use, that you could measure depth, and, you can measure a circumference and a diameter, you can clearly see for yourself, measuring from point to point, point to point, you will clearly see that that is perfectly spherical. Now, if you move over to a coronal loop and you try to measure point to point, point to point, you're going to clearly see that that's kind of a teardrop shape. Never are these coronal loops perfectly spherical 99.9% of the time. And like I said, these coronal loops, they will last for days or weeks because of the activity on the surface of the sun, and it makes its connection from here to here, here to here. And as long as this surface, and I'll just use the terminology, as long as this surface is hot and active, this coronal loop will stay right where it's at. This object left the frame on the SDO in 16 minutes. That's all they showed. And it was so obscured and it went by so quick, you almost didn't see it. And I analyze all of the information from numerous sites every single day. It's, almost impossible for me to miss something. So if that was a coronal loop to the left, it would have been seen continuously throughout all of the frames, all of the 48-hour footage, and it would have been detected, classified, and noted. And it was not. Why? Because it was not a coronal loop. It was not a coronal cavity or a prominence. And this little disturbance right here, which kind of resembles a little solar tornado, this was not even detected, classified, or noted. And I showed you the information. Everything else there was a lot of activity on the sun that day. Let's go over and let's just take a look at the photographs. And here's your date stamp right there, 5/18, 5/23/59, Universal Time. I have it in a couple of different filters. This was in black and white. Get a better look at that little that little solar tornado. And again, folks, I don't know if that was created by the close distance of this object to the sun. And again, I mean, if you look at the surrounding surface area, you really don't see any type of activity. Nothing. And I could see where, a layman would kind of make that mistake, but if they knew what a coronal loop was, then they wouldn't make that mistake within their comment. So their comment, all of those comments, are meant to place doubt and deceive each and every one of you that wanted to leave a comment. I'm also finding and catching a lot of these. Oh, I don't know. I don't know if it's artificial intelligence bots. I don't know if it's real people or what, but they're spamming my comment section with the same comment with a link to it on every single person's comment on these videos. Now, those comments with the links and the spamming of comments, they don't make it. They don't make it to the actual comment section. They are all held for review. I don't do it. YouTube does it. Because YouTube notices that you are copying and pasting the same comment under every single person's comment in that section. I don't censor your comments. You are all free to say whatever you want to say, place your opinions. That's what we're trying to do. That's what the comment section is for. Here's the original view that I caught. And this was on the SDO. No difference in the date or time. Same photograph. This is the original purple color. And you can see it right there. A perfect outline. Perfect. And again, folks, that little structure right here, that is pretty indicative of a solar tornado. But, I have my doubts on this being a solar tornado appearing right here because it was not listed as an active region or a disturbance on that date. And that's very, very unlike that website to not list that, because they list everything that occurs, everything, minute by minute. So as you pan back and just take a good look at it, you can see the perfect spherical shape. I would say probably 95% of this object is completely visible. Just a little small portion right here because it's slightly behind the sun. And this may be the point when this object moves in close to the sun as it orbits our sun. And I truly believe, based on observations over the last 2 years, that this object, and this is the largest, I believe this is the largest object in this system, and it is the closest to the sun. And no, it is not a planet. And even if it was a planet, folks, we don't know the composition of it. I mean, let's look at little Mercury. Little Mercury is a planet. It has survived for what, billions and billions of years, who knows, with a very, very close distance to the sun. This object that we're observing here right now today probably has to be, by looking at it, 3 to 5 times bigger than Jupiter. And, we already theorized that it definitely has a massively strong magnetic field. So there's more homework for any of you if you want to do it. Start looking up and reading about magnetic fields of planets. How far out can they reach? How strong can they be? Magnetic field of Jupiter is a very strong magnetic field. Even the Earth has a strong magnetic field. And the magnetic field of the sun, you can't even fathom that strength. Start reading about this information and you'll start to put the pieces together the same way that Dr. Albers and I do. You don't have to be an astrophysicist. You don't have to be some, super intelligent astronomer to start investigating and learning about these topics. Let me see. I think I got one more. Here's another black and white. And again, no matter which filter or color that you transfer this photograph into, it still maintains its perfect round shape. And it's almost three-dimensional. You can see, it might be a little hard for you guys to see on your video screens, but you can see this darker line right here. And to me, whenever I see these darker lines in an outline, that is showing me and telling me that this object is definitely three-dimensional. It's not just a flat disk. It's actually a sphere. And you have shadow coming into play. And if that was a sphere, then yes, you would have a line of shadow here away from the sun. You see it's dark over here, and this would be your cutoff line if it was a sphere. And you can see it goes slightly behind the sun. About 95% of it is visible. But I just wanted to put that to rest. Here was the actual original screenshot that I took, and this was off of the composite view on the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And again, I mean, I don't see any type of coronal loops whatsoever. What I see is an object very, very close to the sun, almost enveloped within the sun's corona. And it's kind of hard with perception because we're not looking at something that's three-dimensional. We're now looking at it on a flat picture. And again, this is a very, very good shot of this little solar tornado. But when I looked at it on this composite view, it doesn't look like a solar tornado anymore. It almost looks like a plasma connection. And, if I go through a bunch of my photographs when I detected this back in June, July, August, and September and October of 2017, I have all of the photographs. We actually caught this object at the 10 o'clock position on the other side of the sun, making a plasma connection, making a magnetic connection. It's clear as a bell. But again, you'll have the opposition out there that will call you a liar, a cheat, a criminal. I mean, for God's sakes, earlier yesterday or late yesterday, this bozo over at the Higher Truth channel once again, is attacking Dr. Albers and threatening that he wants her arrested and charged as a criminal. I think that this guy has truly lost his freaking mind. I don't know what's gotten into him, but, he even states further in his video that he will continue to attack Dr. Albers and her research. Blatantly just came out and said that. I don't know why. Maybe because he's not selling so much of his expensive suntan lotion. I don't know. But whenever we come out with this information, folks, and we make these discoveries, that's what happens. The trolling operations ramp up. The bots ramp up. And they all just try to deceive each and every one of you. So now that we got that out, it's not a coronal loop. And that object is not a planet. We've never referred to these objects as planets. We call it Planet X because, the name kind of stuck. Oh, that goes all the way back, I think, to maybe the 1930s and the astronomer Percival Lowell. It goes all the way back to NASA, labeling this object Planet X. If you think about, Konstantin Batygin and Mike Brown, the two astronomers who came out with Planet 9, and, they say that mathematically Planet 9 has to exist. But why are they referring to it as a planet if they've never made any observational views and they have no observational evidence other than math? And they refer to it as a planet. Maybe it's out there. Well, maybe it's a dead star. Maybe it's a massive brown dwarf. Maybe it's a white dwarf. There's so many classifications. Our galaxy is full of stars of different compositions, billions of them. Do they know about every single object that is out there? No, they do not. And they never will. So even mainstream science, mainstream astronomy and astrophysics, they prove very little. I still do not accept mathematical equations as proof that an object exists. And just like Dr. Albers states all the time, observational evidence is number one. We are clearly seeing it. We are observing it. We're not just putting a fancy math equation up on a chalkboard and stating, okay, I know that 99.9% of you do not understand my math, but just trust me when I tell you that this mathematical equation proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Planet 9 exists. Okay, whatever you say. I don't believe it. I believe that the whole Mike Brown and Konstantin Batygin and the whole Planet 9 exposure over the last couple of years has been a diversionary tactic put out there. Hell, Mike Brown is responsible for, he's referred to as the Pluto killer. He's the one who got Pluto kicked out of our solar system because it was just a little bit too small, screwing up the books, the school books, I asked a young kid about a week ago. There were some Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts out in front of a Walmart collecting money for donations. I gave him 20 bucks. And I asked him, how many planets are in our solar system? Well, one of the kids was about 12, 13 years old. He didn't know anything about Earth space science. The other kid, he said, oh, I think there's 7. Then the other kid said, no, there's 8. And I said, well, what about Pluto? And they all looked at me like, Pluto? What's Pluto? And then the other kid said, oh, well, we don't have Earth space science anymore. It's an elective. What? It's an elective? Meaning you can elect as a child to learn about our solar system? What the hell is going on in schools? I went to Catholic school for the first 8 years of my life. And by 4th grade, I mean, we were already into the stars and the planets. I was already in 5th grade making my first mobile display of our solar system. And even when I got into high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, continued to have biology and science and anatomy. What's happening? They're just not teaching these children. It's pretty sad. So I gave the Boy Scouts the 20 bucks and I told them, listen, the solar system's a fascinating place. You kids should really learn about it. And then, I strolled out to the parking lot and I looked up in the sky and there's that white sun. Pure white. Pure white. It didn't even look real. There were a few weird looking clouds off in the distance. They didn't even look real. I photographed some of this today. Brought the camera home, uploaded the photographs, looked at them very, very closely. And now, for weeks, I see squares and rectangles and triangles, very acute. But never in my life have I ever seen these types of shapes within what are supposed to be normal clouds. So what the hell is going on? Is it a breakdown in the matrix? Who knows? I think I have one of these photographs. I think I showed you guys the other day. Oh, hey, real quick. On that school shooting in Texas. Boy, oh boy. I'm going to have to get past this real quick before they flag this video. Now, this guy was complaining about another guy who was walking past a gas station close to the scene of the crime. The guy was carrying an open-carried holstered gun on his hip, which is perfectly legal, and he was carrying an American flag. This bozo started yelling and jumping and screaming up and down and talking into the microphone to a reporter. And look what's around his neck. The Masonic symbol. Yeah, Freemason. I was checking out some photographs the other day also on the Mars rover, and I come up with this crazy looking. What the hell is that? I don't know if it was something on the lens or what. Pretty freaky looking. I don't know what it is. But on the next frame, it was gone. So I don't know, folks. There's so many weird things going on, so many things out there in our galaxy that we don't even know about. This is the photograph that I was talking about. This was actually sent in to me. But what in the hell is happening here? I mean, does anybody have any answers other than it's a photographic anomaly? Because if it's a photographic anomaly, then tens of thousands of people, if not millions of people worldwide, are now taking photographs of these weird looking clouds, and they're putting them on Facebook, they're putting them on Twitter, they're making videos about them. What the hell is happening? Pretty weird. Definitely weird. And then today, I took this photograph of the sun. And, it kind of started out, we've been having a lot of rain over the last couple of days here on the East Coast, as all of you probably know or are experiencing. We had a little bit of clear sky today for about 5 hours, and the so-called sun popped out. Decided to take the 35 millimeter camera, take a few photographs, and that's what popped up. The white sun, this time shaped like an American football. I just don't understand how they want us to believe that one day this so-called sun is perfectly round, and the next day it's shaped like a football or a lemon, whatever you want to call it. Call it whatever you want. I did nothing to this photograph, nothing at all. No color changes, no filters. That's what was up in the sky. All I had on was a regular pair of lightly tinted sunglasses, black. And, I was able to look straight up at this, whatever the hell you want to call it, the sun. I don't know, folks. A lot of weird things going on in the sky, man. I'm not the only one talking about this either. There's a hell of a lot of other people, you know, talking about the total weirdness. I mean, here you go. And I've got a pretty good digital camera. What's it look like to you guys? Doesn't look right to me. I don't know how it would gain that football shape. Then the day before, I was able to catch a few glimpses of the sun before a storm came in, and it was perfectly round. It looked like just a flashlight in the sky. And so many people are complaining about anxiety, depression, fatigue, just not feeling right with inside of themselves. I experience it too. I notice people on Facebook, personal friends of mine, making that same statement over and over again, multiple people. Is there something that is affecting us? Solar radiation, the high levels of UV, Schumann resonance, what is ever in these chemtrail clouds? It's just, a little overwhelming when you see all of these people making the same statements over and over and over again. So, what's truly happening? The big deception in the sky. That's what's happening. They're cloaking everything. They chemtrail the living hell out of our entire planet just about every single day. Is there weather modification going on? Probably. You have these screwballs out there that say chemtrails don't exist. I mean, they really just need to take these people out back and give them a good slap. I would advise each and every one of you that if you are documenting things like, taking daily photographs of the sky, the sun, and the clouds, please analyze your photographs. If you have a home computer and you got, a pretty decent screen, some higher resolution, maybe you have a few bucks where you can buy some software to make conversions into higher resolutions. I've learned all of these techniques over the years. I've invested in a bunch of different softwares so I can do this. But, it does take money. And, when I view these photographs that I take with my camera and even my cell phone's got a pretty highly sophisticated camera in it. It takes absolutely fabulous, crystal clear photographs. I don't use it that much, but I always have my 35 millimeter on a tripod. I carry it in the trunk of my car and I keep the camera with me at all times. I think there is a very, very big deception in our skies. And I think that it is getting worse as time goes on. Folks, I can't sit here and I can't prove it to you beyond a shadow of a doubt. I can only talk about the observations that I'm making. And you know damn well that there are a lot of other people that are making the same observations. And each and every one of you, you're seeing it for yourself. You're feeling it. You're living it. What will happen? I don't think any of us know. I don't even think that mainstream science, NASA and the European space agencies and these big governments around the world, I don't think that they actually know. And I think that they're actually scared to death that more people are going to start looking up, making observations, spreading the information through social media, and then more questions arise that they can't answer or they don't want to answer. It's pretty pathetic and it's a shame. I truly believe that we have a very dominant threat within our solar system. Yes, there's a big chance that none of us will see or experience that threat in this lifetime. But most of us have children and they're going to have children and maybe they will be faced with that threat. But I think right now there's a lot of bad things happening within our skies and in our inner solar system. You know, folks, they keep sending up rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket, launch after launch after launch. They keep telling us these are just satellites, these are just this, it's just that. But we don't know. We're not on the inside. Just a lot of weirdness. A lot. But I just wanted to go ahead and, show all of you the difference between this coronal loop commentary and what is actually there. And folks, you're all free thinkers. You can think whatever you want to think. And some people may see things differently. It's kind of like that thing, that little word phrase that's been going around the internet rampant again. Are you hearing Yanni or Laurel? Yanni or Laurel? Well, the same applies for this photograph. Maybe your eyes are seeing something different. Maybe you're not seeing a sphere, a three-dimensional sphere in this photograph. Maybe you're seeing something else. But that's why I try to give you guys all of the information based on the observations that I'm making. That way you can go check it out for yourself. And maybe you will see something that will benefit what I'm seeing. Maybe you could add to it. But just dropping, random comments with no legitimacy behind it, that's not going to fly with me. If I make a mistake, I make a mistake. But before I publicize things, folks, I go over it for hours on end, sometimes even days. I try to, make sure that I'm gathering all of the evidence, all of the information to make sure that I am showing all of you something that is real, something that is there. It's not a game. Not in it for YouTube views or subscribers or the criminal money. But to me, based on what I'm viewing right now on my screen, that object is there. That object is perfectly spherical, and the measurements, again, from point to point, point to point, are perfect. So how would a plasma loop or a coronal loop have that type of perfect symmetry? Impossible. But I don't know, guys. I wanted to put this live stream up here real quick and define this information for all of you. And, I hope anybody who had questions about it, I hope your questions are answered. And I'll post some of these pictures that I just put together. I'll put these on the Planet X News Facebook page, and I'll put the other photographs that I captured from the SDO. I'll put that information up there if you guys want to go ahead, copy it and download it. Check out the information for yourself real quick. I'm going to go ahead and get you the link here for this website. You can check it out. Now, whenever you go to this website, this link is going to always take you to today. So if you want to see current photographs, make sure you click on today and make sure it updates the date. Learn how to use this website because it's incredible, and I've been using it for quite some time, and it always has the 4K high resolution photographs, and you can click on all of the different angstroms and get yourself the information and analyze it. So I'll go ahead and put it in here in the in the live chat for you guys. That way you have it. You can bookmark it. That's what I would do. And let me just jump back here. And there was this video. This came out by NASA, their heliophysics laboratory, and this was an active region 1520. And you can see the difference. Now, these are all coronal loops, but you can see the difference in the resolution, what they see and what they show us. See, they don't show us this ultra high definition video that they are seeing from the SDO, the Solar Dynamics Observatory spacecraft. They keep this for themselves. And every now and then, you know, some of this information gets out in their NASA heliospheric videos. But why not show it every single day? Why not allow this information to be seen on the SDO website? Pretty cool, right? Yeah. It's nice to see that. I'll leave a link for the coronal loop. I'll put it in the chat so you guys can check that out also. Well, listen, folks, I mean, you know, for a lot of people that had questions about that coronal loop and the capture on the 18th, I hope that cleared up a lot of questions. I hope I answered a lot of questions, especially for the little troll babies. You know, that's all they can say. You know, Scott's a bastard, liar, criminal, and him and Dr. Claudia Albers, they should be locked up and criminally prosecuted. Oh, Lord. Yeah, we should be criminally prosecuted for showing you things that are happening out there in our solar system, and specifically what's invading our sun. I don't see how that's against the law. But anyways, more power to all of you troll babies. Keep up the good work. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you stay tuned to Planet X News and Dr. Albers' YouTube channel. Make sure that you are following Planet X News on Facebook. And if I come up with another discovery, more observations, more evidence, you know damn well I will have it in front of you as soon as possible. Listen, everybody, thank you very much for your support. Have a fantastic and blessed Sunday. And maybe me and Dr. Albers will touch base in a live stream with all of you later on today. Take care. Be safe. This is Scott from Planet X News, signing off. Take care, folks.